Hey, it's F. Gardner. So this episode's about how to write a book. So I've written 13 books, 13 horror novels. Call of the Crocodile is the book that I'm most famous for. And I thought I'd elaborate a bit. I kind of talked about before, of course, since I'm a writer and everything. But like, people always ask me like, yo, F. Gardner, what's your secret? How do you write so many books and stuff like that? And yeah, I'm if I could do it, so can you. And the way I do it, I just kind of here's F. Gardner's routine. What I do, so I get up and yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll try to make sure I'm really caffeinated. And sometimes I'll have like an energy drink or whatever, just as long as I'm caffeinated. It's not necessarily limited just to coffee. I'll have iced coffee a lot of the time. Those are really popular, like in Japan. Like I've been in Japan a couple times, and they have Boss Coffee, and that's like a popular brand there for iced coffee. It's really good. F. Gardner's a big fan of Boss Coffee. It's like the best iced coffee. But other iced coffee here is good too, like whatever, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. It's all good, but I really like Boss Coffee, the signature Japanese Boss Coffee. That one's awesome. Yeah, one time I was in Japan, they had Tommy Lee Jones for, I don't know if he's still doing that, but for a while he was on like billboards and stuff, posters, whatever, advertisements for Boss Coffee. That was interesting. That was cool how he's like all over the ads for Boss Coffee in Japan. So I have a lot of coffee, and then I'll have a lot of cigarettes. Like, not always all like at once. Well, I'll definitely have like first thing when I get up is a cup of coffee, and then I'll have a cigarette, at least one. Sometimes more than one cup of coffee. Sometimes I'll have a cigarette, and then it's like, oh, I feel like having another. Then I'll have another. So it varies, but yeah. And then I kind of just sit down and write, to be honest. Yeah, and as I've said, like a lot of my inspiration is like definitely supernatural. Like it'll come to me in my dreams, and like I said, I've heard different theories for why that, or I've read about like people talking about like, oh, yes, writing supernatural, and yeah, I can vouch for that. Writing is absolutely a supernatural, paranormal thing, like I said before. So yeah, I'll have dreams, like nightmares. So, and well, if I have dreams, it'll be like, if I have nightmares in the dreams, I will turn that into a horror novel. I'll try to make it into an interesting narrative. Excuse me. But sometimes it'll be just so clear. It's like, whoa, this is already like a full story, a full novel that I'm dreaming about. I'm having this nightmare, and it's scary, but it's also like, well, I know this isn't real, so it's cool. It's kind of like you go to a haunted house, right? Like during Halloween, and you might be kind of creeped out, but that's part of the fun. So it's like if I have a nightmare, I'll try to think like, oh, sweet, I'm getting a source of whatever, inspiration, a rush of inspiration, like a muse is like, the term, like, so like how writing supernatural, so that type of thing. And it's like the more you think about it, the more it happens too. Like one by one, after when I started writing, I started getting more ideas. It was like as like this sense like, oh, F. Gardner, you should write about this now for your next horror book. So I kept doing it, and yeah, it was awesome. Like, I mean, it's scary when you have a nightmare, but try to make lemonade out of it. That's what F. Gardner did. That's what I did, and you could do it too. So yeah, a lot of coffee, a lot of cigarettes, like right before you write. At least that's what I do. And again, like I said, I'm not necessarily advocating for smoking. I'm just being honest. It works for me, like it works for a lot of writers. That's just reality. That's just the truth. So you can have your opinions about if you think it's unhealthy, you shouldn't smoke so much, or you shouldn't drink so much coffee. You believe that if you want, but myself, as a writer, I feel that this, like, it fuels me. It fuels my inspiration, that it's part of my, you know, muse or whatever you want to call it, inspiration. You can't just force inspiration. You need to wait for it, but you need to act on it. Yeah, so many people, they'll think like, oh, I'll do this later. And I'm not saying like as if they're lazy. I don't mean it like that, but like if you're getting this like rush of inspiration, you got to act on it. So it's like, for example, myself, let's say I'm lying down and it's 4 a.m. I'm sleeping, and then all of a sudden I have a terrifying nightmare, and I wake up after it and I remember it because it's so vivid, and I'm like, oh, holy fucking shit, that was a spooky ass dream. That was scary as shit. I gotta write that down so I don't forget. That's what I'm saying. You gotta write it down ASAP, as soon as possible. You need to do that, like, so don't just think, oh, I'll remember it tomorrow. I made that mistake. Other people have too. Don't do that. I don't usually make that. I very rarely ever make that mistake. Like, once I started realizing that was a mistake to postpone it, I don't think I've ever done it again. I try to, yeah, so I'll definitely, like, I'll get up and I'll start writing. I have a cup of coffee, even if it's like late. Yeah, cup of coffee. I'm drinking coffee all throughout the day, having cigarettes all throughout the day, all the time. So yeah, then it's like, well, I've got this inspiration right now. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. I don't care if I haven't slept. This is inspiration. It's telling me that, however you want to put it. Like, I'm Buddhist, so I have my beliefs about why this is happening for this source of inspiration. Some other people might say, oh, this is my guardian angel or my higher self, or however they want to put it. You're free to believe what you like about it. It's cool. I respect that. However, so it's like, however you envision it, whatever. Go with it. Act on it. You got to do that. Not acting on inspiration is the biggest mistake writers make. Is they're not acting on it, then they forget things. So don't do that. I'm speaking from experience. I have 13 books. You could do that too. You just need to act on the inspiration. And the way I do that, yeah, I know maybe it sounds silly saying, oh, you're just saying you just smoke a bunch of cigarettes and drink a bunch of coffee. Yeah, but also I'm acting on the inspiration. I'm taking the initiative, and I'm not trying to force it. You can't force inspiration. You're gonna like burn yourself out if you do that. A lot of people, yeah, if they want to try, fine. Some people do that, like where they'll try to reach certain word counts or whatever each day. But F. Gardner doesn't really do that. Now, generally speaking, like if I feel like writing, I'm like, I'm in the zone. I got to do this. I'm gonna sit down and write because I'm getting this source of inspiration right now. And I'll do that, and I'll act on it, and I'll manifest that into a book. I'll generate that into reality. That'll come to fruition as a book. And I've done that 13 times now. And yeah, more to come. And this is largely because I know how to do this at this point. So yeah, if you're watching this video, I hope this is educational, because it really is that simple. You don't need a complex outline. I'm not saying that it can't help. Some people, I guess it helps. Different things work for different people. That's just the reality, So some people, yeah, they might say, oh, using this outline helped so much. I'm so glad I use this outline. Okay, if you feel that way, great. I don't feel that way. Not for my own self, not for my own writing process and everything, how I write. The way I know how it works for me, and that's what I do. So yeah, you could try to like invent your own routine and whatever, and that's cool and everything, sure. But what I'm telling you will work. I mean, you could say, oh, well, maybe that just works for you. I don't know. I think it works for everybody. It's like, it's not so much, okay, yeah, different things work for different people, but it's also, if you do what I'm saying, it will work for you because it's pretty straightforward. I'm like, whatever, stimulating my mind. Yeah, coffee, I'm getting caffeinated, and cigarettes. Yeah, and then so you have the caffeine buzz, the nicotine buzz, and I'm sitting down, and then I'll start drafting my latest manuscript or whatever. That's what I do. I'm just being totally honest. I try to be, honest. I'm a pretty, whatever, open guy about what I do, and that's my writing process. So if you want to learn from how F. Gardner's done it 13 times now, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. So you could like emulate my writing process and and hopefully learn from me and be able to write a novel of yourself, or even if you've already written your first manuscript, write another one. Take the F. Gardner approach. So do all these things, act on inspiration. That's what's worked for me. And yeah, this cigarette thing, if you don't smoke, I'm not necessarily saying start smoking. I'm just saying, like I said before, a lot of writers do it. And I don't mean that to sound like, oh, it's everybody else is doing it. Don't you want to be cool? Well, I don't think cigarettes are unhealthy in the first place, but I already made a video about that. That's just my personal belief. I think they're fine. That's unrelated. I already made a video about that. You can watch that one if you want. I think I called that one How Cigarettes Helped Me Write 13 Horror Novels. I think that's what I called it. So I already talk about that there, and I'm not trying to necessarily, like I said, advocate smoking. Do I think cigarettes are good, like personally, like for me? Well, yeah, I'm a writer, and like historically, like that's just like an absolute fact that a lot of writers smoked cigarettes or cigars or pipes, whatever. As I've elaborated on that before, it's just how it is. That's reality. F. Gardner is just trying to tell you the truth, So, and coffee, yeah. Why do you think so many writers write at coffee shops? They'd probably be smoking in those coffee shops if nowadays it's like smoking is banned everywhere. In like a lot of places indoors, whatever, coffee shops, restaurants, even bars. Yeah, even bars now you can't smoke. So, yeah, I don't want to make this like a political thing about smoking laws necessarily, but the focus I'm trying to make it is on writing. It just so happens, yeah, I'm a writer. I've written all these horror novels, and yes, cigarettes, I'd be lying if I said cigarettes were not a major factor in how I had written all of these books. Coffee too. Yeah, how you see all these writers in coffee shops working. You go to Starbucks and you see at the tables, people, they have their laptop, they're typing their manuscript. So yeah, why do you think that is? It's because a lot of writers drink coffee. It could be a novelist, a screenwriter, a playwright, whatever. It's just, I guess, a bit of a cultural thing, but it's because it works. Yeah, so coffee and cigarettes, yeah, it's part of the craft as far as F. Gardner is concerned. It's part of the craft. So if you want to learn from F. Gardner, there you have it. Those are my honest thoughts. As always, I just try to be honest with my fans and people watching. And yeah, the writing is a supernatural thing, as I said before. Not to just reiterate things I was saying before, but I wanted to elaborate in more detail. And yeah, the more you do it, the more you notice that it's a supernatural, paranormal thing. The whole thing about the muse, and you'll understand that more, and everything. It'll make perfect sense. Inspiration, and that it's this inspiration coming it's in your brain, it's your head, it's your mind. It's telling you need to write. Now is the time. And this it could be you're a composer, a painter, whatever. I'm a novelist, a horror novelist. I've written Call of the Crocodile and all my other horror novels. This is the process that made me into F. Gardner. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is the process that I utilized. The vehicle, the tools, whatever, that brought me to becoming the F. Gardner you know. So hopefully, yeah, you can learn from my experiences, and yeah, I encourage you to write, and hopefully that goes well, and you can have a manuscript, a book of your own. I hope this has been a very educational video, everybody. I'll catch everyone later. Bye.